Hey, y'all, so glad you're here. Welcome to another Agency Builders training. I'm really excited today to have Brian and Susan with us. If you were at the Agency Builders Retreat back in April, you got to meet both of them. Rave reviews on both their breakout sessions and Susan's keynote. Really excited to have them here today. I got to preview this content earlier this week, and it was so impactful that I immediately took the data and went back to our team at our quarterly meeting the next day and shared it with them because I think it was both encouraging in some ways, but also challenging in others. And so I'm excited for you to get to dive into it today. If you have questions along the way and you're watching live, feel free to drop them right in the chat over on the side, and we'll do our best to kind of jump to those questions when they make sense. I'll also randomly interject with questions as I normally do. And then if you're watching this on demand, which I know a lot of you do since we're recording this on a Friday afternoon, who knows what y'all are up to? Probably out there playing golf. I don't know. We're not. We're here trying to get some work done, trying to help y'all. So hopefully it's helpful. But if you are watching on demand, that's great. We're happy to have you too. Just leave a comment wherever you are watching at, and we'll do our best to come back and answer those with our team at Agency Builders, or I'll tag Brian and Susan in it and get them to come help as well. So with that preview set up, Brian, Susan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jay. So good to be back here.
We're glad to have you. I'm gonna turn it over to y'all, let you jump into things, and then if you're joining us in the chat, just let us know where you're coming in from, and we'll ask questions along the way if you have them. Otherwise, Brian, Susan, take it away.
Let's go. So it's great to be here with everybody. I know we've met some of you at the event or in the community, but if you don't know us, I'm Susan Baier. I run a research agency called Audit. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
And I'm the president of White Label IQ, and we are an agency that does development and design and marketing support for agencies exclusively. And you can imagine our hands are pretty deep in AI, and as we work with agencies, we see a lot of the changes that happen on the ground right now.
Yeah, so we're both agency owners, and our clients and prospects are agencies, our community is agencies. And we got together and formed a nonprofit called Agency Core. All we do is provide this kind of research to agencies. And there's sort of a Venn diagram around agency studies with us. Brian and I together do a study called Agency Core where we survey agency leaders. And then I also, with Drew McClellan from Agency Management Institute, do a study that's now in its 13th year called the Agency Edge, which surveys agency clients. So we do those at the same time. And this year we explored some of the same topics. So we have this really neat opportunity to see sort of both sides of the telescope, what clients are telling us about their relationships and what they want from agencies, but also what agency leaders think about their situation and what clients want. And there's some interesting parallels and dichotomies that we're going to look at today, because I think it really gives a sort of an interesting, and I hope a positive view, an uplifting view for those of you out there. So the first thing we wanted to start with was the data from the research that shows us that things are not as bad as we think it is when it comes to clients perceiving agency value. Right, Brian? The way this deck works, you'll see numbers on them, and you'll see which study they came from. The blue numbers are from agency leaders, from the Agency Core research. The yellow are from clients. So take it away, Brian.
No, definitely. As we look at this, we look at agencies last year, and particularly there were so many people just even a year and a half ago were questioning the relevancy and whether we'd be able to support the pricing. It's been an amazing change over this year, and we're seeing in the data that still, while 52% of agencies, are sitting here wondering, are the fees they're charging worth it? We're looking at end clients, and they're saying absolutely. They are not expecting at all a reduction of fees. Well, 29% may be, but we all know as AI is coming out and it's the big pressure valve on it, there are certain types of work that are receiving a lot more commoditization pressure. And we'll get a little more into the perspectives here. But the beauty thing is, in 1 year, we went from are we relevant to, I believe, a lot of clients actually looking and going, absolutely, we're relevant. There's an expertise there. And there's that 29% actually represents a smaller area. We'll get into the segmentation a little bit more into the study, so we'll understand it in a great way.
And we're going to dig more into what they really want from agencies using AI on their behalf. This 29%, like you said, sounds scary, but it's actually folks either wanting to handle tactical work, but still wanting agencies for something far more important to them. And there are some folks out there who think that they can do it all themselves, but the tools they're using and their understanding of AI suggests that they may find that a bit more challenging than they expect. Half of agency leaders say that building trust with clients and prospects is harder than it has ever been. But when we look at what clients say, 75% of them strongly agree. This is a top 2 box measure of agreement that agencies are a critical partner for business success. So I know a lot of agency leaders who are like, agencies don't want us, clients don't want us anymore. They're just looking for ways to get rid of us. And we see the data being completely opposite of that. There's a huge amount of value that clients see in working with agencies throughout that study.
Yep. We see this a lot with like as 50% building trust. Then the trust is there in many ways. When we look at it, the perspective I have from an agency owner is as we look at 75%, they're actually just asking us to show up with the authority for the reason they hired us to be that expert in that area here. So the trust is there, I believe. They're just wanting us to show up and actually deliver what we sold them.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
Did this
just to
data
add there
surprise you,
too.
Jay? Yeah,
One thing to add that might be helpful is I was thinking about this really even pre-AI. We've been talking about internally is we're not in the business of building websites. We build websites, but that's not our business. We're not in the business of creating design. We create designs, but that's not the business that we're in. We're in the business of helping other people grow their businesses. And so the question is, how do we do that? Now, websites and design work and social media and paid ads and SEO and all the other things are all just vehicles that we use to help them achieve that. And so I think where people get stuck is they get on a thing, like if I just did what I did in the early years, which is write HTML and CSS in Notepad to create websites, it wouldn't work out very well anymore, but that was 30 years ago. And so we've evolved over time simply asking that question, how do we help them? So Brian, to your point, it's like, what did they hire us for? They wanted something, usually more leads, better reputation, protect their reputation, or help them grow. Something in those categories.
Yep.
And so I think that's what a lot of this points to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, almost half of agency leaders say clients are more skeptical of their recommendations, but look at this stat. 91% of clients say working with an agency increases the likelihood that they will achieve their goals. The skepticism situation is just not there in the way that I think a lot of agency leaders worry about. So from our standpoint, Brian and I are going, as agency owners ourselves, like, calm down. The value is there. They see it. We just have to understand what it is and deliver it. And that's where some of this data from the agency study is, I think, really helpful. But things aren't as the sky is falling as some agency leaders may seem to be. So all that being said, there's no doubt that agencies continue to struggle with certain challenges. And this year, what we saw is a struggle that hasn't changed over the last 5 years that I've been doing this research with agency leaders, and others that are climbing to meet it. We tracked 4 really severe agency challenges. We asked agencies to what extent they were experiencing these issues from 2022, our first wave with Agency Core, to last year, and then this year. So the first one, the blue line, is struggling to maintain and nurture a pipeline of right fit clients. And that pipeline challenge has almost not budged. It's exactly the same as it was last year, and it affects 2/3 of agency leaders. The green line is being able to maintain fees that pay us what we're worth. And look at the increase. It was pretty flat, 22 to 25, but look at what's happened in 26. That is up by 9 points. That is a statistically significant increase on that. The red is differentiation, the ability to differentiate my agency from my competitors. Again, pretty flat from 22 to 25. And look at, it's also up at 49% of agencies now experiencing that in 2026. AI's impact on our relevance, we first asked last year, it was only at 20%, and it is literally skyrocketed, more than doubled to 46% of agencies saying they're having a challenge with that. So pipeline hasn't changed, but all these other things are creeping up in the minds of agencies about things that they're dealing with.
As we get into the segmentation, you'll definitely see how, as we look at the data now, this is everybody, but in the segmentation, you'll see clear separations.
Yeah, there are people who are not struggling with these to the same extent that everybody else is. Did these surprise you, Jay? These challenges?
Well,
is this what you hear about?
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about differentiation lately, actually, inside the agency, because I think the things that we've maybe said previously are not the same things that we need in the future. I also think it's interesting because the idea that AI itself is the differentiator, I think, is a short-lived opportunity because it's going to become table stakes. I think where the opportunity becomes is showing clients what's possible that they never dreamed possible. In fact, right before this call, I got off a call with another client, and they run a podcast website, really cool setup, and we're kind of finalizing the site launch. I said, hey, let me show you one more thing. And I showed them this agentic AI-driven search system that we built for another podcast website. And she just goes, oh my gosh, I have to have that. A couple of things happen here. One, I'm creating significant lock-in with this client because it needs a very custom database and all kinds of things. And the reason that then differentiates us because we've built these tools already that I can now duplicate and show to this client. And so it's not that AI is the thing, it's that we're able to produce a value for them. And I told her on the phone, I said, maybe this was possible a year ago, but it would have cost you 200 grand. Now we can do it, with a slight increase to your existing retainer. And so we're at least, I don't know if we're always making a lot more. We're able to provide more value to the clients, and that differentiates us without losing revenue. And we certainly are increasing it in certain spots.
Yeah. I think, too, what's happening with this AI impact and the differentiation together is, anybody can spin up an agency website in about half an hour now and look like a pro. And it's harder to differentiate yourself if anybody can do that. That didn't used to be the case. So how do the real experts start to stand out? Because one of the pieces of data that we saw overwhelmingly in this client study is how important expertise is, strategic expertise in a niche. And so there's some interesting opportunities, I think, to demonstrate that with AI. Like you're talking about, how do we use this for what I need in my niche?
Well, I had a client, just one more thing on that before, because I think this is helpful for people. I had a client who was sending me stuff that they had produced out of Claude, and it just was not good. Now, Claude will produce many things. It's just not necessarily producing the right thing. And so I think that when you layer that expertise on top, and then the second value layer in that is, I think, is a huge differentiator, is going back to the old world way of doing things. And what I mean by that is, how do I get people in person? How do we get on airplanes and go see them? How do we get them on airplanes to come see us? How do we set up dinners and coffees and lunches and strategy sessions where we're sitting for 2, 3, 4 hours in person, ideally? Because that creates the differentiator. The actual product deliverable is not the differentiator anymore. And it will become less and less and less that. The relationship will become one of the biggest attributes. And the people who can do both is really where the superpower is.
I
love that.
I heard you a couple of years ago when we were talking, you were talking about how that human path was going to drive so much value, and there was a parallel path with efficiency. And from there, I've really grown on the concept that I think AI is what's going to make us more human again, for that pure, simple fact that those human interactions, communities, we're going to have the opportunity, the value propositions are going to be so strong there.
Yeah, I love that.
Tell you what, that's what I'm doing with the time I'm recovering by building a lot of AI stuff for my business, is I'm spending more time engaging with clients and prospects, which is great. I love that. So let's talk about the pipeline problem. 2/3 of agencies struggling with this. 63% finding new clients is harder than ever. For people who struggled with this challenge, we asked them a follow-up question in the survey, which was, can you name a specific strategy that you believe would solve the pipeline problem for your agency? And 73% of them could. They wrote a specific strategy in an open-ended box. Then we followed up with a question that said, to what extent is your agency implementing the strategy you just wrote down? And only 15% of them were doing it. And the fascinating thing about this to me, Jay, is this was not Are you listening to the experts? Are you listening to Jay? Are you reading the books? Do you know what people tell you to do? This is their understanding of what they believe would help. And yet only 15% are fully implementing that very strategy for a severe problem that's been pervasive, at least since 2022, and is affecting 2/3 of us, crazy.
In the agency space, I mean, there's always been this urgency and this cobbler's kid type effect where we've been, the hardest thing is to do your own marketing a lot of times. But the thing that this statistic really shows and it brings concern to me is like there is so much change happening at this point. The ability for us internally to really step up and like actually strategically pivot or make sure that we're refocusing back on those outcomes is critical. So when I look at the 15%, I just think it's just not good enough for the industry. How do we support each other?
Yeah. So let's talk about differentiation. Way up, as we talked about, affecting half of agencies. 46% of agencies have committed to a niche position in their marketing efforts. This is something that we started seeing with clients a number of years ago, that there's a growing gap between you saying you have a niche and you actually marketing it, right? Mm-hmm. So this is 40% who are not keeping it a secret. They're using it in their marketing. 95% of clients say having a niche gives an advantage to an agency when they are looking for an agency. Almost universal clients want a niche. So only half of us, whether we have a niche or not, it's not much more than that say they do, but most of us aren't marketing against that niche. So that communication, that understanding from the client, where are they going to get that from that prospect? Where are they going to see it?
Yeah, and like, this is what we do. This is what, and at the end of the day, if we're not willing to bet on ourselves, how can we expect our clients to bet on us?
Yeah. And there's data in the study that clients overwhelmingly want strong marketing around to help their agencies, to help them demonstrate their niche. Why are they going to hire an agency that looks generic, that doesn't? Why are they going to hire somebody to do for them what they haven't done for themselves?
And to your point, Jay, like if one person's using Claude and the next agency's using Claude and the third agency's using Claude, we're all the same agency. So where's really the differentiator here?
Yeah, it's really interesting on the niche side, because people that know me know that I historically have been kind of the anti-niche guy. I want to say anti-niche. I would just say
skeptical.
A lot of people in agency worlds love to say things like, if you don't have a niche, you can't grow a business successfully over time. Like, well, okay, I've done it for 27 years, so it's worked out fine. Would I have grown faster sooner? Probably, but there's also inherent risks sometimes. That said, what is interesting, even for me, is we have started to develop niches within the business. So Business Builders is kind of our overarching brand, but then we have like spun up Ministry Builders, which is a niche specifically for ministries and churches, because we have a lot of relationships in that vertical. And so I think there is a real wise sentiment where the agency arguably could still have a generalist umbrella over the top and then have specific niches that you serve within that. Or you can go all in on an individual niche too, and you're probably going to see faster traction depending on the outcome. But there's inherent risk. So, but it's interesting seeing the client data too.
I see a lot of agencies that I think assume that niche has to be a vertical too.
Well, that's true.
And we have folks I know agencies who niche very strongly on a vertical, and have sort of a generalist approach within that vertical. They can do a lot of those things. But I also know agencies that can do what they do for a massive range of verticals, right?
That's
it's
a great
just
point.
they have a particular problem that they solve that's a common one, and they have a unique way to solve it. So I think there are ways to look at niche that's a little bit different. What were you going to say, good. Brian?
No, as an agency, I've always kind of looked at this as too, like, in a way, it's a marketing budget type conversation, because if you're trying to reach out to thousands and thousands of people, it's really hard. It's really hard to really have an impact, to really nurture those relationships. And, if you can niche down, at least in your marketing budget, to focus on a specific area, just as you have with like the ministry segment of your business, Jay, it allows you to connect with those people cost effectively You can have a smaller list where you can really nurture relationships. And at the end of the day, that fear of having to turn down revenue, well, in your heart, if you know you can serve somebody and they come up to you with a bag of money, you should take care of them.
Yeah, you just don't have to put it on your homepage.
That's right.
35% of agencies, 35% strongly agree that their marketing clearly communicates what makes them different. This is just blows my mind, because what are we here to do? And most clients want marketing that clearly communicates what makes them different, and they want their agencies to create that. And again, a cobbler's kid problem, a reluctance to focus only on one vertical and maybe lose out on other business. I don't know, but that's a small number. Okay, fee pressure. Fee pressure is up in terms of agencies' perception of that as a challenge, right? That's what we're quoting here, this 22% increase. Agencies feeling like they have trouble getting paid what they're worth. Again, here's that 52% believing that clients are increasingly questioning whether agency fees are worth the cost, but 82% of clients in this year's study say they will pay more for specialized expertise.
Once again, they're just asking us to show up and be the experts we told them we were.
Yeah. So I feel like if you're an agency leader and you don't think your agency is getting paid what it's worth, are you talking about your specialized expertise? Are you selling that? Are you selling it to a market that appreciates that? Because there's money there for that expertise. But if you don't have it, you're in trouble. I think most of them have it, but don't know how to talk about it or aren't talking about it very strongly.
Well, and we should all, especially those of you that have teams that are interacting with clients without you as the principal on the call, which, is a lot of folks, you need to audit those calls. You need to pay attention to, like, if it is very easy for a marketing team to become order takers, and an order taker is one step before not being in business anymore. Yeah. And ultimately, the ones who make a lot of money and get paid more like this are the ones who will show up on the call and go, I hear what you're asking, and let me explain why this is a better idea and how it's going to work really great for you because of my experience, which is why you hired me in the first place. And I know, like for Chris and Chris has been with me for 16 years. That's one of the benefits we bring to a call, which I'm on less client calls than I ever have been, but still is we will just push that value. And I'll also say at the end of the day, I'm like, look, but like I'm telling you this because you hired me to tell you these things. But at the end of the day, you're writing the check. So if you want us to just do the thing you ask, and 80% of the time they're gonna be like, no, we want you to do what you think is best. That's why we hired you. I'm like, okay, great.
And I think it's a great argument for training account service folks to understand what the specialized expertise of the agency is and be able to talk to the client about it, whether, whether you're in the room or not. Right.
And I would say the character trait, one thing real quick, the character trait that I'm looking for, and also think is one of the biggest things for successful entrepreneurs over time, is kind of an unreasonable confidence. I am not always confident that I know the answer or that I can do the request. I am always confident that I can figure out the answer or I can figure out how to do the request. And that unreasonable confidence personality trait is what I'm ideally looking for in somebody who's client facing, because the client doesn't want somebody who's like, I mean, I guess maybe we could do that. I don't know. It's not going to go well.
That's not good. That's not good for sure.
Susan, I was going to ask you about the statistic from direct to clients about pushing back.
Yeah. So let's see. So I think it is in the 80% range of clients said that they would fire an agency who did not push back against their assumptions, client's assumptions, which I think is completely counter to what most of the agency owners I've talked to since we revealed that study thought. Right?
And especially younger team members. Younger team members think that the client just wants us to do what they want, and that is almost never true. That's right.
No, and it's way
they get that a lot cheaper.
True, I think, that it used to be. Yeah. So we need to be pushing back and questioning. There's a lot of data in the study about how clients want you to lay out the pros and cons and the assumptions that you've made and all of that kind of stuff when you've come to a decision as an agency. They want to see how you're thinking. That's really what clients are paying for, I think, these days. So we asked the same type of question for this group that's struggling with client revenue growth. Can you name a strategy? Again, 3/4. Yep. How many are fully implementing it? 14%. almost identical numbers for this challenge.
And
Ouch.
it's interesting about this is there's a little bit of like human nature in this. Is it's like, I mean, I know what I need to do with regards to my like nutrition and fitness opportunities. I do know,
Sure. Sure.
I know I probably need to drink a little less. I know I probably need to work out a little more. I know, but am I doing it? And
Right.
so, but then it's like the thing that I always press on then is I go, well, then stop complaining about it. Like I lose the to some extent I lose the right to complain about my extra 20 pounds I'm carrying around because I'm not acting on the thing that I chose.
Right.
So if you're not doing the follow-up that you're required to do in order to get in front of the right clients, then stop complaining about it. Like just or do it,
When we presented this data to a room full of agencies at a conference, I don't think any of them were surprised by it. I think it was shocking to see the numbers that are reliable, quantitative data confirming it. I think every agency owner I've talked to is like, oh, yep, that's us. We do that, But what Brian is alluding to, what we're going to show you is that there's some folks who are much better at dealing with this, and they're the ones who are really succeeding. AI's impact on relevance has really doubled, but look at what clients say. 86% strongly agree, top two box, that the best agencies combine technology and human creativity to deliver better ideas. And when we ask agency clients what they want from us with AI, it is almost universally better ideas, more ideas. It's the strategic stuff that's at the top. That 29% number is almost completely at the bottom of the list. So we have to get over this fear that using AI, incorporating AI, talking to clients about AI is going to get us fired, because most clients want us using AI. They're terrified that their competitors have an agency that knows how to use it and their agency doesn't, right? It's like if you said, well, we don't really believe in websites. That's not a way to help your agencies. So this is a tool, and clients want us knowing how to use it and knowing how to advise them to use it. So we got to get over that fear about talking about it.
So this statistic shows it pretty
here's
well.
The problem. Here's the problem. Actually, this is a little higher than it was when we checked it in 2025, but most agencies still are not being completely transparent about how they're using AI. And look at what clients say. Be transparent. It increases our trust in you. It builds our belief that you are strategic in learning and helping us learn how to use this technology effectively. This is one of those things where we are just putting ourselves in the way of what I think is a massive opportunity for agencies, which is to talk about AI and how you believe you should use AI. And a great way to do this, I've been telling clients, is put your AI policy on your website, ungated for anybody to see, and couch it in your values as an agency. Why do you feel the way you do about AI? Well, it's based on your values. You love human creativity, or you believe in new technology and making sure that you're at the front end of anything that your clients' competitors might be using to get an edge on them. But talk about that with people, because clients overwhelmingly want to see that. And it builds trust.
And I think one of the themes I heard quite a bit at the Agency Builders Retreat was they want us to own the outcome. They want us to be transparent, own the outcome. They know we're using AI, it's table stakes, but there's a lot of trust that can be won here today. And as we saw in the previous slide, they know we're using it. They know it produces better results. So seeing at 25% that agencies are not as revealing about it, I think there's still a lot of shall I say, just cautious there, because this whole series in the back where we've been known for our creativity, our ideation, and that we're cheating somehow, or if we put it in the forefront, we know at this point it can actually be an advantage.
Yeah, I think this 82% is big. I almost would say that my guess is probably 80% of agencies thought that AI would destroy client trust in agencies. And it's doing exactly the opposite. So, that's something to pay attention to. Now, as Brian alluded, there's a hitch, right? So Only 37% of agencies think that clients want them to help the client adopt AI safely, responsibly. It's way higher than that. 54% of clients actually say that in using AI in their marketing, their agencies are primarily or completely responsible for the results of that use, even if the client's in-house team is the one using AI for the marketing. Only like 5% of clients say they're more responsible than agencies. There's 35% who say, okay, it's shared, but we're holding the bag, whether we realize it or not. They're putting it in our lap. So we have to wake up to that reality, I think, pretty quick. The other reality, again, 20% of agencies strongly believe that AI strategy is a deciding factor in agency selection. 82% of clients say recognized expertise gives a significant advantage in being hired. Now, this is different than saying you're an AI expert. Recognized expertise means other people they trust say that you're an AI expert. So there's a big gap. There's about 20-point difference between what we say about ourselves and the impact of somebody else they trust in their niche, an expert they follow, saying that about us. But when they do, it gives agencies a huge advantage at the pitch, in the RFP. It's a big deal. And agencies just haven't caught on to that yet.
At this moment in time, this might be the fastest, cheapest, biggest opportunity we've seen in a lifetime. And the window's closing. It's not going to be here forever. But that ability to really aggressively show up,
build a reputation.
It's there. The opportunity is massive today.
Yeah. 68. When we said, okay, 5 years from now, what are successful agencies going to offer in terms of services? That's what we asked clients. And 68% of them picked number 1, AI strategy, enablement, and governance. And number 2, number 2, technology selection, integration, and optimization services. And we gave people 3 votes on this list. That 52%, that means half of people gave one of their 3 votes to that strategy, enablement, and governance thing. And the interesting thing about this is we don't know whether this will be true in 5 years. We may all just have a chip in our head. We don't have any idea what's going to happen. But what I do know is that clients don't want to hire an agency that won't be around 5 years from now. That's not what most clients are looking for. So we have to demonstrate now that we're going to be successful in 5 years because we handle AI strategy, enablement, governance, and technology selection, integration, and optimization.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this to me is I see a lot of fear from some agencies and even team members going, but if clients kind of see behind the curtain, I think they feel like the Wizard of Oz, like they're going to find out that behind the green curtain, there's just this guy pressing buttons, and he's not actually a wizard. And what I've actually seen is the opposite. When I'm sitting in a strategy meeting with a client, I go, hey, let me show you something real quick. And I'll pull up my Claude Code instance.
Me too.
And I'll show them how something happens, knowing a couple of things. 1, it will wow them. It will feel like a magic trick because it kind of is. 2, it's actually still too complicated for them to figure out on their own, certainly at scale and at leverage of what I'm actually doing for them. And then they sit and they go, holy smoke, we need to work more with these people.
Yeah, you really know what you're doing.
The other thing that's really interesting about this chart, if you look at it, is the very bottom, media planning and purchasing. If you were to think about like an ad agency traditionally many years ago, I think people don't talk about this enough right now because maybe they're just not old enough to remember, but traditional ad agencies were a little before my time, but there was a transition from those traditional ad agencies whose primary responsibility was creating advertising and doing media planning and purchasing primarily. Then that transition to these digital agencies, which is where I've cut my teeth over the last 30 years. And now we are transitioning again to another change. I don't know exactly what we're going to call it yet, but it's this AI enabled future. And I see it as this 3-tiered. It's the old advertising world. It's what we would have been the new digital world 25 plus years ago, and what is now this new AI world. And I think that what we're going to see is agencies who are successful are going to be the ones who are able to transition from this digital agency, whatever we want to call that, to this new AI future. And the ones who aren't are going to be like the ad agencies of old, where they're stuck down at the bottom of that media planning and purchasing because robots are going to do all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's how do we reach people and how do they find us? That is morphing dramatically. It changed dramatically when the internet showed up, and it's doing it again with AI. So I just think this is, it's just fascinating to me that this is something that clients want from us and expect from us, and think that we'll have to do to be successful in 5 years. So you better be talking about it
Right?
today.
On this too, where it talks about governance, governance is going to be a massive topic.
Yeah.
It really is.
One of the things Drew McClellan mentions, is that he's talking to having experience with agencies who have clients who are not allowed to do what they want to do with AI. So they need their agency to do it for them because their own internal IT, legal, or whatever is like, you're not touching this or that, or limiting their tools or whatever. So they're saying, would you do it for us? Because we're not allowed to.
And this is where small agencies, small organizations actually have a massive advantage right now, because I'm seeing the same thing. Anybody who has a full-blown IT department is facing much more scrutiny, rules, et cetera. And so those of you who serve much larger clients, I think there's actually an advantage, like you said, in some ways too, because they can't do some of this stuff internally simply because of their regulations, but you can because you're third party.
I think agencies saying, why don't we handle this for you? Why don't we help design the guardrails and keep them updated? We'll keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on, and we'll make sure that your in-house team knows the same rules, and we're supporting all of that. I think it's a huge opportunity for agencies. This is the segmentation that we did. That's all based on what's between the ears. Doesn't have anything to do with how big an agency is or how small. And we really found 3 kinds of agency leaders. So that first group, the confident differentiators, these are the ones who are killing it. They struggle far less than anybody else statistically with those challenges. Why? They're committed to a niche. They're strongly differentiated. They are marketing that niche and that differentiation effectively. They are known in their niche as a helpful expert by other people that their prospects trust. They say they are very good at building trust before prospects reach out. We're going to talk about that and how important that is in a minute. And these people do not see AI as a threat. It's just another tool for them, but they are already solid. So that's a third of us. Here's the other 2/3 of us. The middle group, AI opportunity embracers, are really having a tough time with pipeline differentiation, getting paid what they're worth. But what they've decided is that AI is the golden hoop that's going to get them out of it. They say AI is changing what it means to be an expert, that their success depends on your ability to adapt faster than your competitors. They know that clients expect us to lead on AI. This group knows that more than any of the other segments do. And they are building trust based on their AI expertise, not just their technical activity, but their knowledge about AI. So they're struggling now, but they have decided on the way out of it. And it's an AI future. It's an AI strategic future for them. This third group is really stuck and has not decided on what to do. Pressured and uncertain. Finding clients is harder. Building trust is harder. They say they need to make big changes to succeed. They think clients are more skeptical of their recommendations, and they see AI as a severe threat. This group knows they're in trouble, but they are stuck. They literally do not know what to do to get themselves out of it. And that worries me. That's a third of us that are in that position.
If I remember right, Susan, I think of that group, about 16% of them said that they're just considering packing.
They may just leave the agency. Yeah. And the interesting thing to me, Jay, is that there is no difference between these agencies on paper. There's no statistically significant difference between how many people they have, how much revenue they're bringing in, what their specialty is, which means that any of us can be confident differentiators. Effectively, all they're doing is following the instructions in their head that say, fix the problem this way, and doing it. That's what they're doing. And now they've gotten to a position where they're solid and they have a reputation. So things like AI aren't upsetting because it doesn't threaten what they've built.
Yeah, I always say we don't have a choice over whether or not change happens. We just get to choose whether change happens to us or we're a change maker. And so when I think about people saying things like, well, what if the client finds out that AI can do X, Y, or Z? I'm like, they're going to find out from somebody. It might as well be from you. And
Right.
so I have taken the position of I'm just going to show people all the things. And then
Hmm.
as a result of that, they're going to go, oh, but he's the guy. I mean, I was at some event the other day and somebody came up to me and they were like, oh, you're the AI guy. And I was like, that's
Mm,
exactly what I want you to think, you know?
yeah. So
Um,
that's working really well for you, but you're doing what we're talking about.
right.
You're adapting this new technology and you're being very transparent about it, but you're also talking about it strategically. It's
Hmm.
not just, hey, I can make this widget way faster than I used to. It's like now I have information I need and assistance in doing something remarkable from a
100%.
strategic standpoint to support your brand. And that's, I think, where we have to get. So when I look as a researcher at all of the data that we have from agency leaders, from agency clients, this is what it boils down to from my perspective, that if we want to future-proof our agency, we have to have a trusted reputation for specialized strategic expertise before initial contact from the client, because clients are way ahead of us when it comes to looking at us and thinking about us before we even know they're there. And that's a big problem today that a lot of us are not dealing with. Edelman came out last year with their trust barometer, and it said that 59% of buyers think that we are lying to them as business leaders to get their money. So
Wow.
that means we're not even coming into a prospect relationship on a level ground with a fair chance. We actually have to build from distrust before we can start getting them to trust us.
Just real quick, Susan, going back 2 slides, Justin just asked in the chat a question related to that. One more.
This one?
Go back one more. There we go.
Yeah.
This was his question. He said, are AI opportunity embracers, those middle folks, just earlier stage confident differentiators, or is it a different path altogether?
I think time will tell.
Yeah.
Right now, confident differentiators aren't solely focused on building their reputation on AI. Right now, the AI opportunity embracers are, because nothing else has worked. They either are not niched or they're not talking about it, and so they're having these challenges. They've decided AI is the path. Right now, the confident differentiators, that's not their makeup. They already found the path. AI is just another tool along it. So we'll see what happens in 10 years from now.
What I hear commonly, and as we talked about earlier, AI is not going to be a differentiator for very long.
Mm-hmm.
And the concern, and we'll see in the numbers here coming forward, is that AI opportunity embracers are moving really fast. But the question is, where are they going?
Yes.
And are they going to end up in a place that is going to be relevant, or are they just moving fast?
Yeah.
I love this comment, but it's so true. Like, there's a reason the compass was invented before the clock, because it's more important to know where we're going. And as I said, in AI embracers, it is that concern that you're moving very fast, but you don't know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, one of the dangers I always say too of moving too fast, it's like a car, if you're driving in a car and you're going kind of slow and you get in an accident, it's not that big of a deal. Maybe a little fender bender. If you're going really fast, it can be life-threatening. And there's a little bit of that. That said, I also think on the AI Embracer side, there's some level of we do have the ability to execute at speed and find out what works or doesn't work faster than we did before with less risk. So there's a little bit of that too.
And they can't stay where they are. They're really having a tough time. So there are risks associated with all of these. If you're a confident differentiator, you can sit on your laurels and the industry will pass you by, right? Eventually, if you don't adapt to new technology and the speed and accuracy and stuff that AI brings along with it, clients aren't going to hire you because their competitors are using that. The embracers are headed into we don't know what, because we don't even know what AI is going to be, right? So they're banking a lot on this. The pressured and uncertain are not moving, and you can't stay there very long. So all of these have potential risks. But I think, with respect to that comment, like I said, I think any of us can be confident differentiators, but there's a specific path to getting there, which is really this, and it's this trust question. Look at the percentage of agency leaders that say building trust is harder than ever with prospects and with clients. Half of us think that is true. Only 27% say they're building trust before prospects contact them. But there's data showing that B2B buyers are more than 70% through their buying process before they ever reach out to us, before they ever give us their email, right? to download something. They're most of the way there. So if we're not demonstrating this before they can talk to us, we're in trouble. We're not going to get those prospects. Only 49% strongly agree that their agency is known as a helpful expert among prospects in their niche, and 59% of buyers say that reputation is absolutely critical to them. So there's a gap. Look at what agencies say. Even we know, again, to your point, Jay, we know this. 87% say an agency's reputation as an expert is what clients value most, which is true. Only 20% of them say their agency is excellent at building that reputation.
Right, and that's 1 out of 5. That's not a lot.
That's not a lot. What makes clients usually or always believe agency expertise is real? So agency clients could choose any on this list. You could see a lot of overlap here because it adds up to way more than 100, but look at the top 2. Shares research it has conducted about its niche, and niche expertise was mentioned by trusted experts. They're trusted
people
experts.
talking about them.
Yeah. Agency claims about their own capabilities and expertise are 21 points lower than their expertise being mentioned by somebody else. And that may be they heard us on a podcast, they heard you on a webinar that somebody else hosted. You know, you're speaking at a conference that you go to. So this whole having this expertise and having a reputation for it is a really big deal. And those two things build that for a client. There was another Edelman study that they did in 2025 with LinkedIn. 95% of B2B buyers say that thought leadership makes them more receptive to sales and marketing outreach from a provider. So what we see in that study, if you go look it up, it's fascinating. They're spending a lot of time on thought leadership, and they value thought leadership, and they will be receptive if they see you being a thought leader, if they're coming across your stuff. So I think there's been a lot, and a lot of people don't like that terminology, but there is still a deep respect among clients for this specialized expertise that's shared helpfully. So ultimately, I mean, from our standpoint, Brian and I, both personally, I think as an agency owners, because we're both working on all this stuff too, but also as sort of sitting in the nexus of all of this research, the data shows that leaders know what we need to do for our agencies, and being successful just depends on doing it. Both of these studies are here. You see those URLs. You can see both of them. They're fully explorable. All the data, it's all visualized. We're always happy to answer any questions about it. But I think from Agency Core's standpoint, and Brian, tell me if you agree, we just want agencies to start thinking about this and asking questions in their own organizations like you have done with yours after seeing this data, because that's what we're doing with it.
Well, that's the thing. Just to have the data there, as we say, like, agencies know what to do already. I think we've established that in the data, and just as we've been talking, it's just the matter of doing it and really hoping like this data really gives clarity for people to be able to make some decisions with a lot more confidence.
And this is just scratching the surface. I mean, there is so much data in these two studies about what's going on.
This is an executive summary. You get into the visualizations, you can break it down by segment, by
there's just tons of questions about client preferences and what they want. I just hope people explore it and learn from it. I know you've done that, Jay, and I hope it's helpful.
Grab the data, drop it into Claude and start telling about it your agency and see if it helps, give a better perspective. I mean, it's all about data today, right? So
right. And it's all ungated. You can take those URLs and give them to your own Claude and say, based on all this data, what should I do?
Yeah, this is a really good example use case of what y'all are explaining right now. I'm sure most of y'all's AI agents, Claude or whatever else, is trained or should be on your business. And as a result of that, you can literally just take this data and go, hey, what am I missing? What are we not doing that we should be doing? What are we not thinking about that we should be thinking about? Audit our internal documents, audit our website, audit our whatever, and just give me a report and a summary that we can go think through. And you don't need to do all the things, but it at least give you a starting point. Abby asked if we could drop those URLs in the chat. I will do that Sure, one of you can
I
shortly.
can do it right now,
That's
Jay.
great. So I'll just say this one thing. If anybody has questions that are watching live, thanks for joining us watching live. And if you're not, you're watching on demand, feel free to leave comments in the chat or in the comments wherever you're at. If you're watching live and you want to leave questions, feel free to put those in the chat. I'll just say this, rapid change creates a lot of uncertainty in the world. And when there's a lot of uncertainty, the natural instinct for a lot of people is fear. And so what I always tell people is that courage is the ability to move forward in spite of fear. And to encourage someone is to give them courage so that they might move forward in spite of their own fear. Now, whether your fear level is at 1% or at 99%, what I hope out of these kind of conversations is that you leave as an agency owner or a leader with a little more courage to move forward in spite of fear. Because the standing still is not where we need to be. We want to be leaders. We want to engage, and we don't always know if it's the right thing because things are going to change so fast. But ultimately, what you want to do is move forward in spite of fear. So, Brian and Susan, thank you for that. If anybody's got any questions in the chat, I'll look for those. We'll also put those links inside of any show notes or anything wherever this is being posted, whether it's inside of the Agency Builders community or on a podcast or whatever else in the future. And if you're listening to this now or watching this, you're going, hey, how do I get involved in this community? You can go to agencybuilders.com, find out everything about the community. We've got a retreat coming up again in April, which is going to be awesome. I don't see any active questions, but Brian, Susan, any parting thoughts before we pack it up for this day?
No, just let us know if you have questions, you want to talk about this data. We'll have more next year. So looking forward to that. But yeah, thanks for having us, Jay. It's great to be able to share this with as many folks as we can get to.
Absolutely. Like I said, go ahead, Brian.
I just say I echo that.
Yeah, so I would just say it has been both a combination of encouraging to me with some of the choices we have made and challenging things to think about that maybe we're not thinking about. And so I'm excited and to see and hear how that has impacted people. As of the time we're recording this, it's July, middle of the summer in 2026. By the time we get to April at Agency Builders Retreat, my guess is a lot's going to change between now and then. That's one thing we can be certain of. And so I'm excited to do that together. Brian, Susan, thanks for being on the show today and sharing your knowledge, insight, and hard work with everybody. It really is an honor and a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Everybody else, we'll see you soon.
Take care.